Hello, this is John with Theology Ed. This will be part three of the Leonard Cohen series. I'm going to focus on interpreting. First, we take Manhattan, that song, in relation to the video. This would be, as far as I can tell, one of the first, if not the first, interpretation that goes through the entire music video and works through the scenes, explaining how they shed light on the interpretation of the lyrics and also what they communicate on their own. And we're going to find some really interesting things in the video that are related to the lyrics. He says, I'm guided by a signal in the heavens. And there are hints of what that celestial signal is, and even some really clever ways of representing it that also shed light on what they're going to do with that. Okay, so the video is actually an enlightening video that merits more attention than it gets. It's not just showing a bunch of people walking on a beach with suitcase nukes ready to blow it up, which is a weird thing, but you know, uh, they all go to the end and you have the suitcase nukes. We'll get there, but it's more than that, and it's interesting. And so we're going to actually dig in here, even though we've talked about the song before on the channel several times. This will be an actual in-depth analysis. So we're going to take seriously Cohen's own take on the song. Okay, the video clearly is a terrorist video. It's a video about terrorism. This is not hard to see. I just showed you a bunch of people on a beach with suitcase nukes. Okay, and the video itself is like a terrorist cell being built. It's someone receiving instructions from someone, take Manhattan, then Berlin. They get this message, like, that's your job, go do it. And then they go and they recruit someone and others to build up a team to actually go do it. And that's the music video. It's a terrorist video. And Cohen himself has said the song is a geopolitical plan that means exactly what it says. It is a terrorist song. There's something about terrorism that I've always admired. The fact that there are no alibis or no compromises, that position is always attractive. Now, Cohen was a devout Jew to an extent. He was also a Buddhist monk. He did that for about 5 years. He was a Freemason, and not just an ordinary Freemason. He was the worshipful master of the lodge. So here at the Ionic Composite Lodge website, you have the past masters, the worshipful master, Leonard Cohen, 1993. He was also awarded received an award, Hiram Award, for outstanding service and dedication to the lodge in 1998. So this is not just your average Joe at the lodge. This is a guy who is in leadership, and he is and was a pretty dedicated guy. He took his no compromise seriously, right? What it says, one of the things he admires about terrorism is the fact that there are no alibis or no compromises. And you get this also in That Happens to the Heart, which we talk about in parts, in either part one or part two of the series. And I do recommend, if you haven't seen those, that you go back and take a look to really dig into Cohen and some other interesting and important lyrics to explain how he ended up where he was at. It's sort of like a glimpse into the psychology of someone who is involved in this. And it's I think, a valuable take to really understand these people a little better. But in that song, Happens to the Heart, he says, I was always working steady, but I never called it art. Even though he's doing all his music, it wasn't art for him. It was steady work. It's like his obligation, his job. It was just some old convention, like the horse before the cart. I had no trouble betting. Look what he says, on the flood against the ark. I had no trouble betting on that which was attacking, or the threat to God's people, the people that God was going to protect, against the ark. That is, against the thing that God used to protect his people. This is an attack. The way he's representing the flood is an attack against the people of God who are being protected. He's got no trouble betting against them on the side of the flood. So he's not just viewing the flood as a flood to kill the evil people on the earth. He's looking at it as a way to go after those in the ark, and he can bet on them against that. You see, I knew about the ending, what happens to the heart. I explained this in the video on happens to the heart. I was handy with a rifle, my father's 303. See, there's this Masonic reference. I was handy with a rifle, my father's 303. I fought for something final, not the right to disagree. No toleration. I fought for something final, not the right to disagree. Not to treat positions I reject, I'm against, I think are wrong, as though they have a right to continue and they can be tolerated. No. And the weapon I used was my father's 303. And of course, that is a way of referencing the 33rd degree masonry. Okay, now, as a weapon in this case, like, metaphorically. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at Cohen's song in depth, of the video especially. We're going to use them the video in conjunction with the lyrics to work together to get an understanding. And the lyrics I'll keep on the left side of the page here so that we have them, and I'll underline the lyrics that correspond to the screenshots of the video on the right so that we can see what's being sung at the time that is in place. That was on the screen. Now it starts with seagulls flying for quite a bit. The intro is with just seagulls flying. So we're getting right away. We're at the beach. We're at the sea, and we're watching these birds fly. And I don't know what to make of that. These are not they're seagulls. They're not canaries, for example. But that may not. They may have some reference to other types of symbolism. I don't know. But I'm not going to dig in there. I'm just going to mention that that's how it opens. And I think that's noteworthy. But when we finally get to the singing part, we get the back of Cohen's head. And we are going to get, as you'd expect from a terror song and a terror cell, a kind of hiddenness. Okay? And their plans are hidden. There are hints at what the plans are without making them explicit. In previous videos, I wondered, what is the birthmark in the song? He says, I'm guided by this birthmark on my skin. And there's the question, what is that? And I thought, years ago when I started researching this, I was like, well, who could be important, have an important birthmark that would actually guide plans? And I thought, well, maybe Gorbachev or whoever, because this is a song from the 80s. And you speculate, you think about what kind of birthmark would guide things. But I actually think it's Cohen, and the song, the video is going to confirm that. Okay, now, and we'll go over that. We'll even talk about that birthmark. It's a weird thing to talk about, but hey, that's how it works. So they sentenced me to 20 years of boredom. That's where we're at. Now, in the context, that lyric is going to be for trying to change the system from within. I'm coming now. I'm coming to reward them. First, we take Manhattan. Then we take Berlin. Now, these 20 years of boredom, one way to look at it is before, first we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin. I'm coming now. I'm coming to reward them. First we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin. And that seems to be the natural flow here, is that the 20 years of boredom come before the period. But it could be, there's a way to read this that works naturally, where you get first we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin, where the 20-year is the period of time separating Manhattan attack from Berlin attack. Now, if you're looking at it as the song, one way people have tried to look at it is as a interpretation of sort of his life of music. This song was released around 88 or written around 87, 88, I think. And I think he began performing as a musician in the 60s, and about 20 years before that, his first song was released. And so, it's like you could use this as a way to look at the song from a musical perspective. Like, he had 20 years in his musical career. It was like boredom. He's just trying to change the system from within to improve the music industry and so on, or to bring a richer, more, I don't know, thoughtful lyrics to music again, or whatever. And they sentenced me to 20 years of boredom for trying to change the system from within. I'm coming now. I'm coming to reward them. First, we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin. Now, maybe this is a move, a transition in the life of Cohen from his previous music career to actually becoming more of a quote unquote prophet for the occult. Okay, so the occult elite. At which point, maybe saying, "Oh, 20 years of that," and then I changed. Finally, I'm just going to be on the side of these guys. I'm coming. We're coming from Manhattan and Berlin. That's one way to look at it. Another way is that it actually could be referring to first we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin. Maybe there's a 20-year period there. There's a plausible understanding of that if 2021 would be the attack year, right? Because 2001 was when they took Manhattan in the 9/11 attacks, and then 20 years later would be this year. Now, this year, of course, for people who watch this channel, you know that September 11th was when a earthquake swarm on La Palma began. And then an eruption began a few days later on the 19th, a week later, so a little over a week later. And that eruption is still ongoing right now as I'm recording. It's November 27th, 2021. And the eruption is still happening. And people are watching that eruption, and there's the question, the question that people are interested in knowing is this the answer to? Is this the 9/11 attack that came after the Manhattan attack? Is this the attack that's going to revolutionize the world, take Berlin, the free world, where this volcano is going to be the cause of a big landslide, which has been discussed, that causes a tsunami that affects the Atlantic coasts, most in the northern hemisphere, but I guess really anywhere where that wave would reach, including southern hemisphere. So that's the question, and there are some hints in this video that is possibly what he's talking about. Okay, and I'm going to discuss those as a possibility, not as this is absolutely what it has to be, but it is an ongoing topic for discussion. People have been looking into it, thinking about it, and I'm going to show you some of the evidence in the video that supports the possibility that is La Palma, and that would make me think the 20 years could also have a reference to this period, 20 years of boredom. They start their attack on Manhattan, and then you got 20 years of boredom. And then you get Berlin. But would that be 20 years of boredom trying to change the system from within? I suppose so, because you have to do all these changes to laws and legislation, Patriot Acts, things like this, that give the government the power and the right to accomplish what they need to accomplish once they do the second attack, right? You have to have the legal infrastructure, in a sense, in groundwork in place for the types of changes they expect to make when they have a bigger attack. Okay, something like that. So maybe. Now, first we take Manhattan. No, they sentenced me to 20 years of boredom. Again, he's hidden, which is what you'd expect in a terrorist song from someone who's leading a terrorist cell. Sort of a hiddenness. Now we're going to keep going. And here he is. It's like he's evaluating the beach and the waves. He's looking out at this and thinking, as he says, for trying to change the system from within. He is bored stiff. He wants to do something. And what is he looking at? He's looking out here at the waves. He stops. He's walking from left to right to left. Goes here. He stops. Walking, pauses. Then he goes more. He's aching to do something. I'm coming now. I'm coming to reward them. It's like he makes a decision. He goes back, and then we get our note. Now this looks like the hands and clothes of a woman getting a order. Maybe it's depicting him as the one giving the order rather than receiving it, right? So he's coming to reward them, and then we see her pull out this paper which has the Manhattan on it. So it's there. She's getting targets. First we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin. Now this is he says, "I'm coming now. I'm coming to reward them." This is payback. It's a kind of vengeance in these acts of terror. Okay, and we'll see how that comes in a little later when he talks about, you used to love me as a loser. There's almost like the sense of being bullied or disliked, and now he's coming back to get you. Okay, I'm coming now. I'm coming to reward them. First, we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin, and as it's saying Berlin, this part here, see I put the blue under there, and the screenshot's in blue to say that corresponds with that part of the lyric here. Okay, and she is walking, it looks like, towards the beach. Okay, so now this Berlin attack already in the opening scenes is connected to this beach. See, he was where? He was there looking at, looking at, looking at. He's seeing, he's getting ideas here, looking at waves, getting ideas, looking at the beach, wants to do something, but he's bored having to try to change the system from within. Finally, he says, "That's it. I'm doing it." He gives the order. Manhattan, then Berlin, and she's going to the beach. Now, uh, this taking Berlin, I've mentioned in previous videos, is almost certainly a reference to not just the city Berlin, though there's a possibility that, yeah, I mean, okay, so Berlin at the time was divided. Had the Berlin Wall, and you had the East and the West, and you had the communism versus the communist side versus the democratic side, and so you have freedom versus East versus West, all this, and it was a Cold War thing. So it's all, but it was also uh, capital Germany, which was related to the Holocaust, obviously, and him as a Jew is possibly looking at this as coming back at those that went after us, right? So we'll come to Berlin. But given the lyric and the way the scene is set up, why Berlin? Why are they talking about Berlin and sending suitcase nukes to beaches as the target? Now, the most likely explanation here is that this is actually looking to something much bigger than Manhattan. First, you take Manhattan, then we take Berlin, and that's like the whole free world. Um, and that is from related to a very famous Cold War speech that Kennedy gave, JFK gave, in which he said, "I am a Berliner." Okay, and uh, here today in the world of freedom, today in the world of freedom, the proudest boast is, "I am a Berliner." All free men, wherever they may live, are citizens of Berlin, and therefore, as a free man, I take pride in the words. I don't know how to pronounce it. Ich bin ein Berliner, Berliner. Yeah. But the idea here is, I'm a Berliner. I'm from Berlin. I am of Berlin, and so the idea of being Berlin was associated with freedom. It's the free world. That was what it's representing, and I think that's the idea in the song as well. First we take Manhattan, then we take the entire free world, Berlin. Okay, and so we still have her walking. I am guided by a signal in the heavens. Now, what could this mean? I mean, it's just a weird lyric, right? Because he doesn't tell you what the signal is explicitly in the song. If you're just looking at the lyrics, you don't know what the signal is. Now, we have a hint of what the signal is because we have them taking Manhattan right after and during a period covered by a solar eclipse, a specific solar eclipse. Okay, there was a solar eclipse on June 21st, 2001. Solar eclipses, they say, cover about 6 months period initially or whatever. The magic of them in the occult. Now, the September 11th attacks came after. Then we have all sorts of other predictive programming and things like iPad Code 2 and loads of other places that point to the June 21st, 2020 solar eclipse. So another solstice eclipse, same date, which also was very important ritually for them, leading to this entire period of eclipses, the second half of this period of eclipses that are very important in the 7-year period from 2017, the August 21st eclipse, then to the April 8th, 2024 eclipse. The mid-date eclipse for that was December 14th, 1,211 days after the August eclipse in 2017, and 1,211 days before the eclipse in April of 2024. And this solar eclipse on June 21st was very important for them. Now, it marked the period of transition into the killing phase, right? It starts here. 6 months later, you get the next quote-unquote 9/11 attack in the knowing, right? 9/11, the death clock. I have a video on that where it says 12/14, 9/11, Monday. December 14th, 2020 was a Monday, and it was a 9/11 attack. That was the rollout of the therapy, the injection. Okay, and that is very controversial right now, being pushed in a very aggressive way by governments, unprecedented. And so that is, the solar eclipse goes to that. Now, one possibility here is that the 20 years later would be this exact sign, that the coverage goes to that one eclipse period time from June to December, and that the rollout of the therapy is the 9/11 attack, and the wave, this attack that's global, that takes the whole free world, is going to be just that. And that would fit the timeline, right, in the sense of it being 20 years. It would also fit the time in the sense that if he's guided by the signal in the heavens, and that's the signal, this June 21st eclipse, then both of these attacks, the therapy rollout on December 14th and the 9/11 Manhattan attacks in 2001, both of those would fall within the quote unquote the period influenced by the magic of those eclipses. All right, so that's a possibility, and that has nothing to do with La Palma, but it has everything to do with the injection, the therapy. Now, it's also possible, because we know that this June 21st eclipse is not just important for that 1 6-month period. It marked the beginning of a series of these eclipses that one after another are building on each other, it looks like, until they come to sort of a climactic event or series of events that come on just before, on, or in the period covered by the December 4th, 2021 eclipse. Now, but you can watch my iPad Go series on that, my iPad Go 2 Explained series. Part 40 talks about the climatic event and timing. Now, if we keep going here, I think that's the signal in the heavens. Now, one possibility is the signal in the heavens is just an important total eclipse, and that would be the June 21st, 2001 eclipse, and ixnay this, go to another one. The June, or maybe a solar eclipse that they have is a total eclipse that's more important, because this is annual, the 2021, June 21, 2020 eclipse. However, before I leave, I should mention that eclipse, that June 21st eclipse, was a Father's Day eclipse as well. And I mentioned that last year in my videos on it. So this is important, because what does he say at the end? Well, it's Father's Day and everybody's wounded, or whatever, right? Sorry for saying, right? That's not much of a singing voice there. But it's Father's Day and everybody's wounded. What does Father's Day have to do with this in the terrorist song? What's the connection? Guided by a signal in the heavens, and it's Father's Day, and Father's Day leads to the wounding. It's Father's Day first, the wounding is after. That's a key marker. Now, it's not going to be some random Father's Day. It's going to be the Father's Day associated with the signal in the heavens, and probably the birthmark in some way. But we don't know how that works exactly. But here you have it, June 21st, 2020. The signal guided by the heavens is also Father's Day that year. That's not a common thing. Okay, especially not common that there's an eclipse on the same date. So what we have is further evidence that it was the June 21st, 2020 eclipse. So I think that is our signal in the heavens. I'm guided by the birthmark on my skin. Now this is very fascinating in the video. Look, we only get black from him. Okay, he has dark hair, black clothes. I mean, this is not a case where you have um, a uh, a birthmark visible. Okay. Now, if you look, you got her with him. Often, a woman, the feminine principle represents the moon, and the solar principle, male represents the solar principle. Okay. If that's the case here, and I think it's possible, we're already seeing the signal in the heaven they just talked about. I'm guided by a signal in the heaven, and now we're getting this alignment of a girl and a guy. Okay. One behind the other. One behind the other. So she, representing the moon, would be in front of the sun. Here's further evidence of our signal in the heavens being an eclipse, a solar eclipse, right? When the moon is in front of the sun. I'm guided by a signal in the heavens. Then she leaves that position of being behind him and she steps in front of him. She moves to his front. So she's behind, she goes out, comes back to the front. She is no longer eclipsing him. When she makes this move, she is at his right cheek. She goes from his back, around him, to his right cheek. What in the world is that? That's clearly symbolic action. It's just a bizarre thing. It's not a dance. It's not a rational movement. It's not explained by, oh, she's, what in the world is she doing? She's just going here, out, back. And so I'm guided by this birthmark on my skin. That right cheek is the cheek of his birthmark. Okay. If you look, I think this is a place where we're starting to see that the birthmark he's talking about is actually his, not Gorbachev's or somebody else's. Okay. And if you look, here it is on his right cheek. You have his birthmark. So she is behind him, representing an eclipse. I'm guided by the signal in the heavens. A signal in the heavens. I am guided by this birthmark on my skin. Which one? Oh, that one. She just moves to it. I'm guided by the signal in the heavens, an eclipse. And let me show you the birthmark too. It's that one. So we get the sequence. As the lyrics are going, signal in the heavens to birthmark, we get eclipse symbolism, positioning, switch to here's the birthmark. Okay. And so there is a relationship between an eclipse and the birthmark, whatever that birthmark represents. I guess, what does a birthmark represent? I should have taken time to look up. I've done this before. Birthmarks in, sort of divination or things like that. They have occult divination, and it's sort of a headache to read this stuff. But people make a big deal about birthmarks sometimes and their significance. Well, either way, maybe there's something like that with this birthmark. Maybe it's actually the shape of it. Maybe it's a mark. If it's the injection, right? If it's the injection, it's like the mark, somehow being marked. But it could also be the shape of it. Like we talked about the Canary Islands threat closely. Here's the Canary Islands. Here's the part that is scientifically, in actual academic journals, geologists talk about this as a landslide threat. Okay, that it could slip into the ocean with a big enough earthquake or volcanic eruption. Right now, the eruption's happening here, roughly, in that same part. Okay, and that's what it would look like if it slips out. Go over here. What does it look like? It looks a lot like his birthmark. And there's your Canary Islands in The Simpsons, where they also have it, the La Palma Island. They have the part cut out like it slid out. Now, so you're getting possible Canary Islands reference, possible mark of the person island, a symbolism or representation. A possibly something else sort of in occult divination that, you know, I'm not qualified to try to figure out really fast. I'd have to go read a lot. And, you know, maybe it's worth doing to see. But last time I looked, I didn't find anything that I found promising. I thought was promising. So I just gave up on it. Now, we continue. I am guided by the beauty of our weapons. Now, I think this wep, the uns, I think, is in the next scene. But, you know, see, look. Uns, yeah. So I'm guided by the beauty of our weapons. While this is happening, he has his hand on her hair, her back, and he's going to run his hands down her back. Okay, um, and I think, you know, if she is going to be used in this as a member of a terrorist cell who's going to go off and blow something up, she is functionally, effectively, a weapon. Okay, and she's this beautiful woman. I'm guided by the beauty of our weapons, and he's going to reveal them. Look, weapons, and then he takes off the scarf, and he reveals what's underneath. See, so that's where that goes. So it's like he said, "I'm guided by the beauties of the weapons," and he, as the handler, is going to unveil the weapon. He is going to reveal it, make it happen. Now, this is also interesting because throughout the song, you know, he has these weird lyrics like "I love your body and your spirit and your clothes." Huh? You know, you want to say, "What in the world are you talking about? You're this great lyricist." Everybody says a wonderful poet, you know, and all of this. But now you love. I love your body and your spirit and your clothes. That's the best you can come up with. That's the third part. You know, what's that all about? Now, given the video here and the unveiling, like the, you know, this, he is either revealing the clothes that he likes, maybe that being the weapon, her being the weapon, the beauty of our weapons, and unveiling the clothes, like the scarf was hiding the clothing, and now we can see it. So maybe the clothing represents the weapons, or this is just taking off an article of clothing representing like taking off all the clothing, and the clothing is what is hiding the beauty of the weapon, the person, the woman, or the, you know, who's representing an actual weapon, whatever that terrorist weapon is. Now, if whatever it is, if that would in that case, it would be I love your body and your spirit and your clothes, meaning the weapon, if the unveiling of the clothes is the revelation of the weapon. Or I love your body and your spirit and your clothes. I love the hiding of this for now. This is a strategic thing. I'm not sure. Or it could just mean he likes her clothes and he, you know, just, you know, had a lapse in judgment, doesn't know how to pick his lyrics very well there. Or, you know, there's some other meaning I'm missing. Now, he says, I'm guided by the beauty of our weapons. Here, unveils it. First, we take Manhattan. Now, if this is interesting. So he puts his hand up on her arm here, and the camera goes down. Like, you get the feeling like something's falling because the camera's going down, right? So it actually is going, it is in a downward motion. So you're not just getting the feel of something's falling. The camera is actually moving down, which gives that impression of something dropping. Now we go over here, and as we get to the hand, it switches to, then we take Berlin, and we get the key. The key and the briefcase and suitcase nuke, the terrorist weapon that is contained in it. So here we have the Berlin weapon, and it is a key to something. I think it's the key to all the changes that they're going to bring about. The final changes come from the Berlin attack, the attack on the free world. Now, again, just looking at this, the therapy release, which did fall under the signal in the heavens, the June 21st, 2020 eclipse coverage went right up to the end of that, right up to December 14th date, that eclipse. Now, when that happened, that did and has led to the loss of freedom. The free world is under attack in a huge way. Okay, so it fits. And it was the death clock in the movie Knowing, um, date of that 9/11 attack, the second 9/11 attack, which is the everybody else attack in Knowing. So it fits. Another possibility, and that would be with the beach, going to the beach, maybe like bombing the waters. And someone mentioned this the other day. We talked about it previously as well in a comment, but we talked about previously as well on the channel in relation to waters biblically. And these people are familiar with scripture. Biblically, refer to peoples or nations and populations, right? So the masses, the wicked are like the troubled sea when it cannot rest. Him looking at that, you could have this attack be the therapy. It's like they're nuking humanity. They're going right at the people. The free world is going to be under attack. The people are not going to be free anymore. Here comes the therapy. The mark, as they're understanding it. So that is a real possibility. I really think we need to take seriously the interpretation of all these events, and not just this here, but also in other predictive programming, as a metaphorical wave, like a wave of the pandemic, a wave of the, uh, of these sorts of waves, yeah, as opposed to like a gigantic literal tsunami from La Palma. On the other hand, you've seen my other videos. I do take the La Palma threat uh, somewhat seriously. Not that I think it would happen naturally. I don't think you're going to get that big of a tsunami out of that landslide, even if the whole thing dropped in at one time. Um, but if they had a big enough earthquake they generated in that in the basin over there, in the ocean, that area, or on the island, you could have a big tsunami come. That'd be man-made, man-generated, even aided in other ways through other technology. And so, if you had that, you could have yourself uh, a legitimate, real tsunami that also is used to advance their agenda. Uh, but I think we need to take seriously that we've already seen the attack start, and we're well in it, and we're just going to see it continue getting worse, more, in the upcoming strains and all of this that are inevitably going to show up because that's what their predictive programming has been telling us, right? Um, so then we see the Berlin when we get that last part where he hangs on that in part of the word syllable. We have in the blue these two shots where it goes all the way down to the bottom of the briefcase, and we see what we have the ocean. I mean, it's blurry, so I'm pretty sure it's the ocean given context, but and the way it looks. But it goes from there, and then it shoots up fast. Okay, from the water up. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Give me some thoughts if you got an idea. And it goes up, and then we see the top of the briefcase, the handle of the case. She reaches in and grabs it. No lyrics at this point. It's instrumental. Then we go into this next. I'd really like to live beside you, baby. Or that's how they sing it, actually. Doesn't matter. But I'd really like to live beside you, baby. And we see these lines streaking. We're in a train, and this is what you can see as the train's passing quickly. And then we see this girl in the train, and she is in a really interesting. This is a very interesting scene here. First, you of course can see the eye. Okay, in a pyramid, it's set up to where you have at least a pyramid like shape. So the dark up here from her hair, the dark from his jacket, making a pyramid, her eye in it. And it is her left eye. What we're getting here is the eye of Horus, okay, and it represents the moon. Now okay, I'll show you this. So the Egyptians often referred to the sun and the moon as the eyes of particular gods. The right eye of the god Horus, for instance, was equated with the sun, and his left eye equated with the moon. So there's your moon. At times, the Egyptians called the lunar eye, that's the left one, the eye of Horus, and the solar eye, the hidden one, the eye of Ra, being the preeminent sun god in ancient Egyptian religion. So what we have here is the lunar eye. We have the eye of Horus, if we're going to distinguish between the eye of Horus and the eye of Ra. We actually have the eye of Horus. And we have this hidden. Now, his hand is on her face, making a very interesting shape. Okay, what you're looking at here is a profile. The non-dark part of the page, okay, the screen. This is dark here. Here you have a profile. That's a nose. Her nose is actually in the nose of the profile. Her eye is actually going to be the eye of the face looking this way. Goes down, and we have a big open mouth. And his hand is touching her mouth and almost touching her eye. Now watch here. I highlight this so you see it. The mouth, the yellow face is like a profile looking to the left of your screen. Right. So you got your nose and the mouth. I'm bad at the. Yeah, I did it fast. That's not exactly perfect right there, but you got the idea. It's not terrible either. So we have this opened mouth, and it's a I don't know. To me, it's sort of reminiscent the way it's shaped of something like what you'd see in Egyptian art or something, but ain't classical. Now, what is this representing? This is pointing to the opening of the mouth ritual. So look, it goes down, and we have this big open mouth here, and we're already getting Egyptian symbolism, the eye of Horus and a pyramid, or like a capstone, and we have this, and it's very interesting. What is the opening of the mouth ritual? Here, the opening of the mouth and eyes, generally abbreviated as the opening of the mouth, is the ancient Egyptian title of a ritual attested from the Old Kingdom to the Roman period. In essence, it might be described as a consecration ritual for images in human form. When you consecrate an image in ancient Egypt, you did the opening of the mouth ritual. Okay? It is known to have been performed on statues and sometimes coffins. In the ritual, especially designated persons used special ritual tools such as what? To touch the mouth and eyes of the image to enable a spirit to receive food and drink, to breathe, and to see. Okay, in other words, you're trying to make the statue a living statue by touching the mouth and eyes of the entity, okay, in an opening of the mouth ritual. What you're looking at here, look closely what he's doing. She's completely still. He's going to reach in, touch her mouth, presumably her eye, or right there at the eye. And in the act of doing that, he creates the opening of the mouth ritual. Very clever, okay? And I think also a very clear example or clear evidence that this video is a type of ritual magic, if you want to think of that, where in Aleister Crowley's ritual magic discussion of ritual magic, we know that every detail of a video of ritual magic drama is designed is carefully planned with occult purposes and meanings and drawn from occult symbolism and so on. Okay, what we're getting here is a ritual act. He is doing the opening of the mouth ritual. He's touching the mouth, the eye, and creating the open mouthed object on a stationary object. Now look at her really quick. I kept this. Watch her. See how still she is? Watch. She is statue-like in the entire scene. She'll sit there. Okay? She is representing an image that he is consecrating to make a living image. And so here, in this abstract of this article on the opening of the mouth ritual. We have, I messed it up. But I didn't mess up. You can read that. Still interesting. But here, it was in this one. In this ritual, touch the image to enable a spirit to receive food and drink, to breathe, and so on. In other words, you're taking this sculpture and you're birthing it. You're giving life to it. I think this may have an allusion to Revelation 13:15. Now, in Revelation, we have the second beast. This is the one that comes up out of the earth after the first beast comes up out of the sea. And, so maybe this is also why he's looking at the sea, waiting for the beast to rise from the sea in his mind, right? But along the way, what happens? The second beast exercises all the power of the first beast before him and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. That's interesting. Makes fire come down from heaven on the earth. I wonder if they try to do something literal with that. I'm not sure. And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Should be killed. In other words, he's going to make an image of the beast, give it life. That'd be the opening of the mouth ritual, right? And at that point, it can go out, speak, and do what? Kill. Cause as many as that would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Okay, and that's related to the mark of the beast. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Now we know in IPEC 02 that the occult leader treating the, and this is important, I'm not saying this is my opinion about what the Bible teaches the mark of the beast to be, but they are treating the therapy as the mark of the beast. The IPEC 02 video embeds elements of the mark of the beast ritual. It has a mark of the beast symbolism, and it even puts the mark of the beast symbol at a date, a point in time in December of 2020 when it's released. Okay, that was when the therapy rollout happened. And so they are treating that therapy as the mark of the beast. They are going to use it to limit your ability to buy and sell. They're already doing that. Okay, can't keep jobs in many places. You can't travel. You can't go into certain restaurants, certain places. Okay, there are a lot of restrictions, economic restrictions like this, where you can't buy or sell. And they also are going to use it to eliminate people who won't participate. I mean, if you're especially in countries where the governments are already showing evidence of being more aggressive, you need to be careful and maybe think about getting out. I mean, it sounds crazy to say that, but if you were in Germany as a Jew before the Holocaust and you saw it coming, it makes sense. You'd be like, it won't get that bad. It's impossible to get that bad. But we know better now. We know better, and the writing's on the wall. And well, I'm not going to advise people to get out and then have them say it didn't happen or whatever. But it is very difficult to imagine it not happening at this point. Frankly, it's gone way too far. These people are nuts. But anyways, so what we're getting in this Cohen scene here is him in this act of terror that they're going to bring to Berlin, the free world. He is going to be guided by a birthmark on his skin. Maybe it's the mark that they're talking about. Sure fits the whole giving life to the image idea. And so he gets the mark when that's released, and you have uh, the mark, the opening of the mouth ritual performed here. He's going to give life to the terrorism, and through that act of terror, or through this act of, this attack on the sea, whether the sea is metaphorical sea, the people by way of the therapy, or the literal attack on the sea by way of nukes on a beach or an island, or the mountain volcanic island of La Palma or something like that. Whatever it is, through this act, what results after it is the living image of the beast, which goes forth to take out those who will not worship the beast. Okay, now so that's what we're getting in this video. We're getting some pretty nasty stuff. We're going to keep going. Now, remember, the left eye was her moon eye, the eye of Horus. Now he's going to unveil and reveal the sun eye. Okay, this is the right eye, which is the eye of Ra, or the solar eye. That would also mean what? This is representation of an eclipse in this scene, I think. It's going very deliberately from her eye, one eye, this would be the lunar eyes, being shown. You see the moon, but you don't see the sun. The sun is black. Then he backs off, and the sun is revealed. Then, look what happens. Her lunar eye goes into the shade. So we're getting the sun as the preeminent thing here. Then he gets the suitcase for her. And the lyric at this point is, I love your body and your spirit and your, he's got to say clothes in the next one, but so I love your body and your spirit. Well, I didn't actually mention the lyrics before in the previous one. I really like to live beside you, baby. So he's going to be with her, but he's going to tell her in a second. But I can't. I'm not going to be around. He's not planning to have any long-term relationship with this person who is just going to go out and probably die in the attack. Okay, this is it's like what you do as a handler to deceive somebody. I'd really like to live beside you, baby. I love your body and your spirit and your clothes. Seems very insincere. Maybe that's why the clothes are there. It'd be like, I can't think of a third thing to say. And it's like, oh, I love your body and your spirit and your clothes. But hey, let's keep going to the next thing. Yeah, but you see that line there moving through the station? We're going to get there in a sec. So let's get to this one. So, okay. Where was I at? Yeah, so we get this. I love you, body. So we just talked about it. And your clothes. She doesn't seem too impressed. But you see that. But you see that line there moving through the station, just going very quickly. I told you I was one of those. What is he saying there? He comes and goes. Now, some interpreters think that this may have a reference to the Jews being hauled off to the Holocaust in trains because he's Jewish, and he does often make reference to the Holocaust. It shaped his thinking a lot, and I think it's possible that there's some element of that there. But yeah, he's the line moving in the train. In other words, he's coming and going. He's not. I'd love to be beside you, baby, but there's no way. I'm a guy who moves from one place to the next. I'm not sticking around with you. I love your body, your spirit, your clothes. But you see that line there moving through the station. Yeah, I told you I'm gonna keep on going here. I'm not gonna stick around. I'm one of those. But when he says, oh, and just to draw attention to this further, I have evidence that we move from left eye to right eye here. Left eye, solar eclipse, black sun, only moon visible. The other eye exposed right here. Eye exposed, and the left eye goes into shadow a little bit. Then she looks in the reflection, and here is only her right eye. That's all you see now. I think that's her right eye being reflected. Okay, and that other eye, the left eye, which is you know in the darkness and the shadows. So maybe it's a new moon date when they go live. I'm not sure. Um, okay, I told you I'm one of those. She's again now she's all alone, sort of left there. And who does she meet? One of those. I was one of those, and then she meets a guy who has a briefcase of his own. So I guess that'd be the terrorist. I'm one of those terrorists. I'm just coming and going. That's all I do. I don't know. Now he continues as you loved me as a loser. So all alone out there, sort of a loser, just with her and nobody else. But now you're worried that I might just win. I just might win. Now look, as this goes, this is a very long scene. It goes through almost the whole verse. Is just showing a, a cell of terrorists carrying their briefcases to the waters, to the beach. Okay, and just they walk all the way up to this part, and it's a very long walk for that, and he's singing while it happens. So what is he saying? But now you're worried that I might just win. You know the way to stop me, but you don't have the discipline. Now this is true, right? We also don't have the organization structure to stop them. People who know what's going on. You know, one guy's not gonna. They don't think make a big difference. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna organize. How are you gonna pull that off? And so we don't have the discipline. We don't have the structure. We don't have the organization to pull it off. So even if we knew how to stop it, there'd be no way to do it. Now listen, he says, how many nights I prayed for this to let my work begin. See, he wants this to happen. He's tired of sitting around waiting. That's his 20 years of boredom, I suppose. First, we take Manhattan. Then we take Berlin. So we get the same thing there. Okay, but you can see uh, this is something he's eager for. Now, when he says this Berlin, again at the end, we get this long drawn out Berlin, and we see him turn toward the screen. And we're going to see his birthmark hidden again. He's hiding this. He's not showing his right side, the right side of his face yet. Comes later. I don't like your fashion business, mister. And I don't like those drugs that keep you thin. I don't like what happened to my sister. First we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin. Now, what is this referring to? Could just be referring to the shallowness of the people they consider inferiors, sitting around just trying to, worry about fashion and whatever they can do to make themselves uh, thin and beautiful, and how that affects his sister, meaning the women are often caught up in this fashion business and the drugs that keep you thin. Remember, sister just, there's a rhyme here, and I don't know if could also mean sister as far as the Jews, right? I don't like your fashion business, mister. What you did to these people, what kind of clothes you forced them to wear, the lack of it. And I don't like these drugs that keep you thin. They force me thin. I'm not sure. But I think it's looking more at just culture, sort of criticism of society and the way it's begun, the way it's become. And that, it deserves to be targeted. I mean, it's just a mess. First, we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin, like an effort to change things. Or he's trying to change the system. Um, First, we take Manhattan, then he looks down, then we go to blue, then we take Berlin. And then we see him again looking at the water, right, right after says Berlin. Again, that's the free world. So he's looking at the waves. Now we go back to this chorus. Okay. I'd really like to be beside you, baby. Yeah. I'd really like to live beside you, baby. Now, we're on a wall. my guess, given Berlin references, this may be a way to sort of represent the Berlin Wall. Like we're at this dividing point between the free and the communist world, quote unquote. And one side is one world, the other side's the other world. They're like on the fence at this point. They're trying to bring about a change, go from one side to the other. Maybe I'm not sure, but I'd really like to live beside you, baby. I love your body and your spirit and your again, we're doing the same thing. See, she's leaving him, so she's separating. He wants to stay. I would love to stay with you, baby. Right? And she runs off, disappointed. And he runs after her, looks at her. She turns back. He makes eye contact, but close. But you see that line there moving through the station. That line again. That I'm not here permanently. I told you. I told you. I told you. I was one of those. That's what's going to happen here. He hugs her. And you can tell this is not. She's not into it. She knows it's bad news. And so instead of staying with her, he says, "All right, so you take the bomb and get out of here." So it's not love. And so there we have it. Again, more of the same. Told you I was one of those. And so again, just like the last time went through the chorus, we saw her alone on the train station. Here we see her alone going off, presumably to be a part of some sort of attack, which will leave her, maybe dead, maybe just abandoned by him because she's done her work and he has no use for her anymore. Then we see just a thoughtful woman. Okay. And I thank you for these items that you sent me. He says that, and she looks at him. No lyric at that point. That's the pause. And then he laughs, looking down. This is the first time we get a little bit of a glimpse of the cheek, but it's fast. And you don't really think about his face is down. Uh, uh, now we're getting, but he laughs at this. I thank you for the items that you sent me. What are the items that he sent, that they sent him, whoever it is sent him? The monkey, at this point, we're just seeing the terrorists here in the cell leaving their suitcases and getting ready to walk off. He and the woman are in the front. They go first. The rest are going to follow him. Okay? But he thanks them for the items that they sent me. They sent me. And what are they? A monkey and the plywood violin. I think it probably is, I think it's probably a reference to his being, his place in all of this. Materials for preparation. It's a metaphor with music. Plywood violins, like a child's violin, could also have some reference. Again, if there's a Holocaust theme here, the Nazis making the Jews play music for them on a violin or something. But the monkey and the plywood violin, the monkey, I think, almost certainly is a reference to an organ barrel or hand organ like this. It's often associated with the monkey, and an organ grinder's monkey is one who acts for or does the bidding of someone much more powerful. In other words, he's getting a little symbol of his place in the whole thing. This is a put down, right? These are designed to sort of be insults. Yeah, he says, "I thank you for those items that you sent me," and he's laughing like you treat me like a loser. You loved me like a loser, but you're worried that I might just win. You treat me like a loser, right? They give him this monkey saying, "You're just this nobody. You're just my puppet." And the plywood violin, like, "You're not a real musician. Here, play this kitty toy." He says, "I practiced every night. Now I'm ready. First we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin." So he's going to make his retaliatory strike, right? This is similar to the "I loved you like a loser, but you're worried I might just win." Yeah, you treated me like an idiot, and now I'm coming back. Okay. And the plywood violin. I practiced every night. Now I'm ready. First we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin. So here you have the scene where the nukes are left. The people go after them. Then you have one. She, I guess, is the girl catching up. She runs. Maybe she's running to get there because they're all leaving. So this is interesting. Um, I am guided. So I have this attack. I'm thinking as I go here. So I should have brought up water. I didn't realize I'd be talking for an hour, 5 minutes. I'm feeling it in the throat. But let's see here. Um, yeah. So they'll walk off, and then we have her running well. We have the background singer saying, "I'm guided," and so she runs to catch up. I think has to be it. So you have these first, and then her second. Could it be two attacks? Or could it just be that she's representing something uh, in particular here as either, coming right after the attack? Or could she be representing something more esoteric, right? She's related to the image. If that's the girl who was the image being made to speak, right? Or to breathe, and the opening of the mouth ritual. So she would come after the attack. So the attack happens, and then you get the living image that does the killing. I think that may be the interpretation, but I'm not positive. Just thinking as I go. First time that's entered my mind. First time I saw that. I saw it. I took the screenshots, but it didn't like register that here she's separate from them. These people walk off, and then here's one still with a briefcase catching up, like she sprints over to him. All right. So yeah, I would think that may be what's being represented because uh, you have the opening the mouth ceremony clearly indicating, I think, or not clearly indicating this giving life to an image, and the image speaking, and then probably having a reference to Revelation and the mark. Okay, so we continue, and we get the remember me. I used to live for music. Remember me. So he looks at the screen. Now we get our view of the birthmark for the first time, like the clear view. He puts it right there in front of the screen, and so he says, "Remember me. I used to live for music. Remember me." Uh, and he turns all the way around again, putting the right cheek in front now. Remember me. I brought your groceries in. And when he says, I brought your groceries in, they flash this magazine, which is really interesting. And we see a woman's hand on it. Uh, he reaches out, puts his hand on top of hers, and she withdraws. Okay. Uh, you know, this is an act that looks like an act of type of affection, but it's completely unwanted. And she's drawing back, almost like an abused person or someone who, yeah, a person like a handler coming after an abused subject or somebody. Maybe even a type of MK Ultra type mind control something. Um, all right, so you can look here. Uh, yeah, it's the hand over some letters. What do we got? We have these letters showing. I mean, you may have something significant about the finger here hiding certain letters. Maybe the remaining letters have a certain meaning. Maybe the letters that are hidden are the actual meaningful ones. So if you just look at those, if you were to figure that out, there also could be a significance to a woman here being depicted. Um, his hand goes on her, and then his hand is left on just an image of a woman instead of the woman itself. Um, you know, you can brainstorm there and leave some comments what you think. Then we get to, well, it's Father's Day and everybody's wounded. So that would be you're pointing to the June 21st, 2020 eclipse, I think. The signal in the heavens on the same day as the Father's Day, which leads to everybody being wounded in the subsequent attack, which probably was the December 14th attack or a future attack that comes with the an eclipse in the sequence of eclipses that followed the June 21st annual eclipse last year. Okay, and everybody's wounded. First we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin, and now the water comes and actually hits him. Right, he ends up sort of in the water now for the first time, and he's watching the waves at the end. So the waves come in, looks like a bigger one if you watch it, and that goes on for a little bit. I didn't. This is yeah. This isn't the whole scene, but just a little bit of it, just to get a view of what it looks like. All right, and that is all I have for first we take Manhattan. Or, first we take Manhattan. I think it has a possibility of has the Manhattan attack, and maybe Berlin is not just a single attack. Maybe the attack on Berlin is a series of attacks that covers that whole period after June 21st to the end. This April 2024 eclipse. So June 21st, 2020 is the transition that leads to and makes possible what came on December 14th and after. I'm not positive exactly, but I think that's one possibility. And then you'd be able to get La Palma and the mark or the shot. You could also have this as a just pointing to the therapy and the water and the waves representing the attack on the people. Okay, but I think it's a really interesting song, and I think it's overdue for a complete interpretation video on the music video. So I hope you benefited from it. Well, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Take care. Blessings.